You've been told that attraction is about looks, charm, or luck. That's a lie. The truth is, people are drawn to those who know how to make themselves impossible to ignore. If you feel overlooked, dismissed, or easily forgotten, this will change that forever. The most magnetic people in any room are not always the most beautiful, the wealthiest, or even the most outspoken. They are the ones who bend the mood to their will. In every conversation, every glance, every movement, they subtly decide how others feel without ever announcing it. This is the first and most dangerous step toward becoming irresistibly attractive. Taking control of the energy that flows between you and others. Most people walk into a room and allow the atmosphere to dictate their behavior. They respond to the loudest voice, mirror the emotions of the crowd, and blend into whatever tone is already set. They are reactors, not creators. This is why they are forgettable. They are not the flame. They are the moths chasing after it. But those who understand the mechanics of influence know they must reverse this pattern. They arrive not to absorb the energy, but to define it. To do this, you must first become a master observer. Before you take your place in any interaction, you must scan the emotional temperature. Is the room tense, restless, dull, overly cheerful? Knowing this allows you to subtly shift it in your favor. The atmosphere is too loud. You can bring a slow, deliberate calm that forces people to quiet down in your presence. If the mood is stagnant, you can inject a sharp wit or a small surge of enthusiasm to stir the air. You become the thermostat, not the thermometer. You set the level, you do not merely register it. People respond instinctively to those who can regulate emotional climates. It's a primal reaction. In moments of chaos, the one who remains composed becomes the anchor everyone clings to. In moments of boredom, the one who introduces a spark becomes the sun in an overcast sky. When you consistently show that you are the one who brings the tone others crave, you gain a subtle authority over them. They look to you without even realizing it. To control the energy, you must also master pacing. The untrained often speak too quickly when nervous or try to force a reaction when silence would be more potent. A dangerously attractive presence knows when to slow down. Silence, when deliberate, is not emptiness, it's tension, and tension is the raw material of attraction. When you pause before speaking, you make people lean in. When you lower your voice instead of raising it, you make them strain to catch your words. You are not fighting for their attention, you are making them work for it. This subtle shift flips the dynamic entirely. They are now chasing you. Your body language must match this control. Every movement should be intentional, as if you are never rushed, never flustered. Small gestures, deliberate eye contact, and unhurried actions signal to others that you are in command of yourself and therefore the situation. Even in laughter or playfulness, there should be an undertone of composure. The sense that you could take the moment away just as easily as you've given it. The most dangerous form of energy control is emotional framing. You decide what is important and what is not simply by where you direct attention. If someone tries to provoke you, you respond as if their attempt is beneath your notice. If someone tries to impress you, you accept it with quiet acknowledgement rather than excessive praise. You subtly teach people that your approval is rare, that your emotional investment is valuable. This makes them seek it with greater intensity. This power is not about dominance through aggression. In fact, overt displays of force often repel more than attract. Instead, it is the elegance of influence, making others feel as though they are willingly stepping into your frame, while you hold the brush that paints the scene. You can choose to warm the space with charm or cool it with aloofness, but either way, you are the one deciding. To maintain this control, you must also resist the temptation to match someone else's emotional outbursts. If they are overly excited, you remain slightly calmer. If they are sullen, you remain slightly lighter. This contrast naturally draws them toward you, because human instinct is wired to seek balance. You become the stabilizing force, the gravitational pull in the room. And once you have established yourself as the one who commands the emotional atmosphere, you will notice something remarkable. People begin to feel different around you than they do around anyone else. They may not understand why, but they will remember the feeling. They will associate your presence with a shift in their internal state, a shift they crave again and again. That craving is the seed of deep attraction, and once it's planted, it grows quietly but persistently in their mind. Attraction thrives on tension, and tension is born from the unknown. The more someone feels they have yet to uncover about you, the stronger their curiosity grows. But mystery is not the same as secrecy. Secrecy hides everything and builds walls. Mystery, on the other hand, reveals just enough to stir the imagination while keeping the full truth concealed. It is the deliberate withholding of certain parts of yourself so that others are compelled to lean closer, search deeper, and invest more of themselves in discovering who you truly are. Most people destroy their own allure by overexposing themselves. They rush to share every detail of their lives, every thought, every feeling, believing that full transparency will create closeness. In reality, it kills the intrigue. When there is nothing left to uncover, there is nothing left to pursue. People value what they must work for, and the person who is fully available from the start gives away the chase before it even begins. To create strategic mystery, you must master selective revelation. This means that when you share parts of yourself, they should be precise, intentional, and incomplete. A story should trail off just before the most fascinating detail. A statement should hint at depth without providing the full explanation. You might allude to a past experience without naming every person involved or revealing the entire outcome. The goal is not to frustrate, but to ignite a hunger to know more. This art begins with control over your own impulses. There will be moments when you feel the urge to overshare, to explain yourself, to fill silences, to give answers immediately when someone asks about you. Instead, you let the pause linger. You allow a question to hang in the air before answering, and even then, you respond in a way that satisfies part of their curiosity while leaving a shadow behind it. That shadow is where their imagination takes over, and imagination can be far more intoxicating than truth. Mystery also lives in unpredictability. When someone can anticipate your every move, you lose the element of surprise. This doesn't mean being erratic or inconsistent, but rather refusing to be entirely predictable. Sometimes you respond quickly, sometimes you take your time. Sometimes you're warm and engaging, other times slightly reserved. These subtle fluctuations keep people alert in your presence, unsure of what version of you they will encounter. That uncertainty feeds their fascination. Your image should also contain layers. The way you present yourself, your words, appearance, and behavior should suggest there is more beneath the surface. This could be through a contradiction, such as combining elegance with a trace of rebellion, or quiet composure with flashes of daring. When people sense that you hold qualities that don't fully align, they are compelled to reconcile them in their mind, and in that mental effort, they become invested in you. Even in conversation, the mysterious person never seeks to dominate by speaking the most. They dominate by listening intently, asking questions that turn the focus onto others, and revealing only enough about themselves to maintain balance. This reversal of focus is disarming. Most expect others to compete for attention, but when you do not, when you let them speak and offer only fragments of your own story, they begin to realize how little they know and how much they want to. Strategic mystery also requires emotional discipline. You cannot allow every feeling to be displayed openly. There should be moments when your true emotions are unreadable, when your reactions are subtle enough that people wonder what you are really thinking. This does not mean you are cold or detached, that you understand the power of leaving some parts of your emotional world unspoken. The environment around you can also serve your mystery, where you choose to be seen, the kinds of people you associate with, invitations you accept, and those you decline. All of these form a pattern in people's minds. If they cannot fully understand your choices, they will try to. Every unanswered question they have about your lifestyle or decisions becomes another thread pulling them toward you. To maintain this aura, you must resist the temptation to constantly explain your motives. Let your actions speak, but let them speak in a language that cannot be entirely translated. If you help someone, let it be without an elaborate justification. If you withdraw, do so without announcing why. If you succeed, let people see the results without revealing every step that led to them. This silence builds weight around your presence, making your life seem more deliberate, more intentional, more important than those who scatter their story to anyone who will listen. In time, those who encounter you will feel a lingering sense of incompleteness after every interaction. They will leave your presence with more questions than answers, yet with a deep desire to return for more pieces of the puzzle. And while they search for the missing parts, you remain the one who decides what, when, and how much they will ever be allowed to know. True attraction is not born from loud declarations of confidence or empty displays of bravado. It emerges from a deeper, quieter place, the certainty that you are valuable, regardless of who acknowledges it. This kind of self-assurance is not dependent on applause, attention, or constant validation. It is rooted in the knowledge that you do not need to prove yourself to anyone because your worth is not up for negotiation. When you embody this, people feel it before you ever speak. The problem for most is that they attempt to project confidence rather than live it. They rely on exaggerated gestures, boastful statements, or forced charm in hopes of convincing others of their value. But the moment someone tries too hard to appear confident, it signals the opposite. True self-assurance is almost paradoxical. The less you attempt to prove it, the more undeniable it becomes. The foundation of this magnetism is internal alignment. You must decide, once and for all, that your value exists independently of external approval. If someone praises you, you acknowledge it without letting it define you. If someone criticizes you, you consider the feedback without letting it dismantle your identity. This stability is rare, and rarity attracts. In a world where most are swayed by every opinion they encounter, the person who remains centered becomes a fixed point that others orbit around. Unshakable self-assurance also lives in how you carry yourself. It is in the way you walk into a room without rushing, as if you have nowhere more important to be than exactly where you are. It is in the way you take your time before responding to a question, never pressured by the silence. It is in the way you make eye contact without intimidation, without desperation, simply as a natural extension of your presence. These are not rehearsed behaviors. They are the outward reflection of an inner calm that cannot be faked. Your words should also reflect this steadiness. You speak with clarity and intention, never over-explaining or apologizing unnecessarily. When you state your opinion, you do so as if it is simply a fact of your reality, not to demand agreement, but because it is your truth. And when you do not know something, you admit it without fear, because your worth is not diminished by the absence of knowledge. This honesty, paired with composure, makes people trust you more deeply than they trust those who pretend to have all the answers. Part of radiating self-assurance is also knowing when not to speak. You do not need to be part of every conversation or react to every comment. Your silence becomes a statement in itself, a subtle reminder that you choose when to engage and when to conserve your energy. People are drawn to those who seem selective with their words because it suggests that when you do speak, it is worth listening to. The way you handle rejection or setbacks is perhaps the most telling measure of your confidence. Most people crumble or overcompensate when faced with loss, desperately trying to reclaim dignity. The self-assured person accepts what has happened, adjusts, and moves forward without theatrics. This resilience is magnetic because it signals to others that you cannot be easily shaken. In relationships, careers, and social dynamics, people gravitate toward those who remain steady when others falter. You must also protect your time and attention as if they are rare commodities. When you are available to everyone at all times, you send the message that your presence holds little value. The confident individual chooses where to invest energy, and this deliberate selectiveness increases their allure. People begin to understand that gaining your focus is a privilege, not a guarantee, and this scarcity amplifies desire. Another aspect of unshakable confidence is how you handle comparison. The insecure are constantly measuring themselves against others, adjusting their behavior based on what they see. The self-assured person does not enter into this silent competition because they operate in their own lane. They are willing to learn from others without mimicking them, to admire without envying, and to compete only with who they were yesterday. This refusal to play by the unspoken rules of comparison makes them stand apart without effort. Even in attraction, this quality is powerful. When someone senses that you are interested in them, but do not need them to feel whole, the dynamic shifts. They no longer feel they have complete power over your emotions, and this balance creates a tension that draws them closer. Your interest feels like a choice rather than a dependency, and choice is infinitely more compelling than need. Radiating self-assurance is not about being emotionless or detached. You can be warm, empathetic, and open while still rooted in your own worth. The difference is that you give without the hidden motive of seeking approval in return. People feel safer around someone whose confidence is not fragile because it means they are not responsible for constantly affirming it. This safety, paired with your own refusal to be swayed by every passing opinion, becomes one of the most irresistible forces you can possess. The most dangerously attractive individuals do not demand attention with force. They command it through a delicate, deliberate balance, a constant push and pull that keeps others off center, never quite certain where they stand. This is not the loud, brash dominance that many mistake for power. It is the refined ability to make someone feel chosen, while simultaneously reminding them that your attention is not permanent. It is the art of giving just enough to stir desire, then withholding just enough to make that desire grow stronger. Desire thrives in tension. When someone has you entirely, when every piece of you is within their grasp, they stop reaching. The human mind is wired to chase what feels slightly out of reach. This is why those who offer too much too soon often find their allure fading. They remove the element of pursuit, and with it, the thrill. To maintain a magnetic pull, you must allow others to feel close to you, never completely secure in that closeness. You become a fire they can approach for warmth, but never hold in their hands. Subtle power begins with emotional control. You must be able to feel deeply without being ruled by those feelings. If someone tries to provoke you into overreacting, you remain calm. If they try to pull you into their rhythm, you keep your own pace. This steady control creates an unspoken hierarchy. They adapt to you, not the other way around. Over time, this dynamic shifts the balance of power in your favor, even in situations where they might believe they are the one leading. When you show interest, it should be intentional and precise. A glance held a fraction longer than necessary, a comment that hints at deeper feelings without declaring them outright, a touch that lingers just enough to be remembered. These are far more effective than grand, constant gestures. They plant seeds in the mind, seeds that grow in your absence. The key is not to flood someone with attention, but to deliver it in doses that make them crave the next one. The other side of this is knowing when to withdraw. Silence, absence, and restraint are tools as powerful as any display of affection. By stepping back after moments of connection, you create space for longing. People begin to replay your words, your gestures, your expressions, searching for meaning. They imagine possibilities, fill in the blanks, and in doing so, deepen their own emotional investment. Your absence becomes as potent as your presence because it is in that gap that desire expands. To evoke desire, you must also master the unspoken language of power, the signals that convey you are not easily claimed. Your time is scarce, your energy is guarded, and you move through life with the quiet confidence of someone who is complete on their own. You do not need to tell someone that you have options. It is felt in the way you never appear desperate to secure their attention. This lack of need is magnetic because it transforms every interaction with you into something rare and therefore valuable. The balance lies in never crossing into cruelty. Withholding attention purely to punish or manipulate will eventually erode trust and poison the connection. Subtle power is about maintaining dignity for both yourself and the other person, ensuring that the space you create is laced with anticipation, not resentment. You are not pushing people away to hurt them. You are allowing them the room to desire you more. Another aspect of this art is unpredictability. While you maintain overall consistency in your character, your moments of warmth, generosity, or vulnerability should arrive unexpectedly. If someone can predict exactly when you will show interest, the effect weakens. But when you occasionally break your own rhythm, offering an intimate revelation or sudden generosity, it strikes deeper. It feels like a privilege, a rare unlocking of a door that is usually closed, and privileges are treasured. Physical presence can also be wielded with this same subtlety. The way you stand, the deliberate use of space, the moments you choose to move closer or step back. These send signals that words cannot. Standing too close without intention feels intrusive, but closing the space between you at the right moment can shift the energy instantly. Likewise, stepping away at the peak of a moment can leave someone suspended in desire, eager for your return. All of this requires a firm grasp on your own value. If you secretly believe you must constantly prove your worth, you will give too much and chase too hard, destroying the balance. The one who evokes the deepest desire is the one who understands that their attention is a gift, and gifts are not given without discernment. When you operate from this mindset, every smile, every word, every glance carries weight because it is not something you offer without thought. In the end, subtle power is the quiet mastery of timing, presence, and restraint. It is the refusal to drown someone in attention, instead allowing them to experience the ebb and flow of your presence. In that rhythm, the giving and the withholding, desire is kept alive, sharpened, and strengthened until it becomes something they cannot easily escape. To become dangerously attractive is not to rely on surface tricks, rehearsed lines, or shallow charm. It is to understand the deeper currents that govern human attention and desire, and to position yourself as the one who commands them. You control the energy of every interaction, setting the tone so others unconsciously follow your lead. You weave strategic mystery into your presence, ensuring there is always more to discover and never enough to fully possess. You radiate a self-assurance that does not need to be spoken, a quiet certainty that your worth is beyond dispute, and you evoke desire through the balance of closeness and distance, giving enough to stir longing and withholding enough to keep it alive. These are not random habits but deliberate strategies that elevate you above the ordinary. They require discipline, emotional control, and an unwavering commitment to protecting your own value. When practiced together, they form a presence so magnetic that people cannot help but be drawn to it, even if they cannot explain why. In a world full of noise, you become the one who moves with purpose, speaks with weight, and remains just out of reach, making your presence not just attractive, but unforgettable.